let's jump right in, right? Last night, like I do before every fight, on Facebook, we do the skills challenge where we look at a raw assessment with these fighters, bullet point for bullet point, from speed to offense to defense, down the whole 9 yards. And the reason that I like doing that skills challenge is because when we see the typical media garb, when these fights are being promoted, we hear all the fluff stuff. And I think it gives us an over inflated value of what these fighters really bring to the table. So when that happens, we often have egg on our face because we've listened to that hype, and it gives us a certain sense of who's going to win, and that's not always the way it goes. When the bell rings, what I love about boxing is there's no hype between bells. When those guys are in the ring, you bring what you bring to the table, and what you don't have, we're going to find out. And that's what I love about the skills challenge. When we did it for the Lopez Lomachenko fight, I had a lot of people telling me I'm crazy and this and that, but we saw that fight play out exactly the way I thought it was, because I didn't inflate the value when it came to certain things. We knew Lomachenko didn't have a great defense, although it looks like it, but what would he be faced with when he really needed one? And we found out how that worked out. I'm going to stay true to that formula. I always say I'd rather be hated for being honest than loved for lying. So no fluff stuff here, guys. No spin zone. But let's go ahead and jump right in. In the skills challenge last night, I had Leo Santa Cruz graded at about an 89, Tank approximately an 85. Now that doesn't mean that that person will win, but it does tell us, looking at true skills, front to back, side to side, top to bottom, Leo Santa Cruz, with his overall abilities, will bring more into this fight. Okay, couple things people debated. I can understand the speed comments and some of that stuff. Two things that I don't think we can really argue with here, and I think they'll be the ones that could be the tell of the tale tonight, are the experience and the heart. When it comes to the experience, Leo Santa Cruz will bring 261 rounds into this fight. That's a lot of experience. Tank, on the other hand, has 79 pro rounds boxed, and of those 79, this is a hell of an asterisk here, but of those 79 rounds that he's boxed, only 2 times has he gone to the 9th round or beyond. That right there has to play a role in tonight's fight. How much of a role? Tank has that one hitter quitter, so he could land something and it may not matter. But if he's not able to, that one footnote right there, I think, could be the tale of the tale. It could tell the tale, I'm sorry. So that's going to be interesting to watch tonight. A lot more experience for Leo Santa Cruz in comparison. Second bullet point I wanted to touch on was the weight issue. They say weight broke the wagon. Tonight, it could very well break the wagon for one of these two guys, and I anticipate that it will. I was talking to a reporter on deck down there in San Antonio, and he was telling me that Tank has actually been on weight for well over a week prior to the fight. I don't know that to be fact, but if it is, I don't know if that's a good sign, guys. You would like to think, okay, well, maybe he trained harder, and I'm sure that's how he got to that weight. But don't forget, we were in quarantine for a good amount of this year. So just like we saw Lopez at 160 before the Lomachenko fight, he had to burn it down. Tank, I'm sure, was on his quarantine, just sitting around eating like most of us. It was probably the same thing. We don't know. But the fact that he's been on weight for that long prior to the fight could be a very strong indicator that he potentially overtrained. If we see him a little lethargic in that 5th round, 6th round, I think that's when it would probably set in, closer to the 5th round. But if we see him a little lethargic, I think it's going to be some problems for him. And I think that would definitely be a bad sign, and it won't go well if we see that. He has great power, but it may not be enough to overcome that deficit if he truly did overtrain. So that's the second bullet point I want to look at. I think the biggest thing with this fight for me, ladies and gents, it kind of reminds me of Margarito Cotto, that first fight, where the more skilled guy is not able to sit down on his punches and land that real heat because he's constantly on the move and on his back foot. If we see that happening a lot, I think the only true path to victory for Tank is going to be a knockout or several knockdowns, which will be interesting in and of itself. We've never really seen Leo Santa Cruz knocked down, just like we haven't seen Tank, but we have seen Leo Santa Cruz face adversity. Frampton was a good volume puncher, throws a lot of punches, a lot of heat, for a guy their size. And, with Frampton, he didn't get the knockdown, but he got Leo off balance. When it comes to Tank, Tank is going to bring power. But if you're constantly on the back foot or trying to throw from awkward angles, which he's good at as well, but you don't land with the same mustard, and it doesn't have the same punch, for lack of better words, pun intended. So I think if Leo Santa Cruz is fighting Leo's fight, and he constantly has the pressure on Tank, and Tank is moving back and moving around, it's going to be a truth indicator, because it's going to tell us what type of Tank shape Tank is in. It's going to tell us if he overtrained. It's going to tell us everything that we need to know. Can he weather that storm and get Leo Santa Cruz out of there, which no one else has done? I don't know. But getting back to that whole weight discussion, just like Tank could be drained from making a weight, Leo's coming up in weight. So it's going to be something interesting to watch. But I just think, we could very well get what we got with Margarito and Cotto, where the better boxer still ends up getting walked down. Now, I know someone out there is thinking, well, what he had in his gloves. Just for the record, I don't expect that from Leo. Leo's an awesome guy. Like, I think he's a good-hearted guy. Far too good to pull that number. So, no, we don't expect that from Leo. But the vintage Mexican stalk till he can't walk style, will be in full effect. And I think that Leo will press the action all night. And that is going to be the greatest, I guess, determining factor in this fight. And we'll learn what we need to learn when it comes to Gervonta. One other thing I do want to touch on before I shut down. When we talk about experience and that type of thing, this match and the totality of it, where you see a guy like Tank, who's touted as a pay-per-view star and, a pound-for-pound fighter, when you look at the fact that he is being matched in what they're terming a step-up match against somebody like Leo Santa Cruz, who's actually a smaller fighter, that tells us everything we need to know. And again, just getting away from the fluff and all those media headlines, I think Tank is just a very raw fighter. I think the smart money is on him. He's a bigger fighter. He's definitely a bigger puncher. But when the bell rings tonight, all those accolades, all those past fights, nothing is going to matter but how effective he is past the 9th round, if it gets that far. How he handles adversity. We've seen Leo Santa Cruz do that with nearly 300 rounds boxed. We've seen him do that quite a few times. We've never seen that from Tank. We still don't really know how great of a punch Tank can take. We don't know how he likes it when a fighter starts to feast on that rib shack. We don't know anything really about Tank at the highest level. And that's what makes this fight interesting. I know this is not a popular decision, but I'm good for making unpopular decisions. I think the smart money is on Tank as the bigger, stronger guy, but if I had to put ducats in a bucket, I'm actually doing it for Leo tonight. I think that Leo's resolve, his ability to think clearly in the trenches when the heat is on, is something we've seen him do, and if there's any way that he can avoid the knockout, he will. But we know that Tank has never demonstrated the work rate or the ability to throw volume punches. He's not going to do that tonight, guys. You don't just come alive. I know on Halloween we get to be something we're not. That doesn't happen once that bell rings, So I think Tank is just a very raw fighter, and tonight I think that gets exposed. I hope he wins. I think it's better for him to win, better for the sport if he wins. But I think again in the no spin zone, we go with the fighter who has shown us what they can do. If he can avoid the knockout, I like Leo Santa Cruz tonight. So that's where I stand on that, guys. But I'm gonna cut it right there, and I guess we'll do this on the flip side. So like always, peace, God bless, one love. See you at the fights, guys. Thank you.